forgiveness, and he also changed his whole mission from person-led to process-led. And he also taught about succession planning and leadership development amongst the Sahaba, and made sure that there was a leadership after him to take forward his mission. So with qualities such as this, he was able to establish a religion or a way of life that is being followed more than 1,400 years to the T, exactly how he did it. If you look at people who have done it in this world, we can take an example of Vikram Sarabhai, who was an institution builder. He set up an institution every year beginning 1947 to 1971. He also had a lot of exemplary qualities as a leader, and he believed in valuing the human being and servant leadership, which brought about a lot of success in his institution building. And he believed that an institution based on caring for people gave assurance to individuals to innovate and to respond to situations creatively. So the lessons learned about institutional leadership from him are that in order to develop institutions, it is important to place an individual at the center of institution building efforts. The task of transforming and transactional leadership is to present a vision which will inspire many and to provide meaningful exchange relationship. Leadership actions have to nurture trust, constantly creating, interacting and overlapping clusters both within and outside the organization. Failure to do so is likely to lead to a breakdown. Okay? Then it is important for an institution builder to identify and play multiple formal and psychosocial roles. While organizational culture is critical to the development of institution, the importance of building in trust and caring should not be ignored. The next factor which is involved in institution building is the ideology. And what is this? For any institution to succeed, you have to get people who believe in a certain ideology and get all the like-minded people together. You have to form a core ideology which would help sustain the institution come what may. Core ideologies are something that will not change even if the institution has to close down. So these are essential and enduring tenets of an organization, a small set of timeless guiding principles or core values. They require no external justification. They have intrinsic value and importance to those inside the organization. They remain fixed while the institution's strategies and practices keep adapting to a changing world. You can keep adapting to a changing world, but your core ideology and core purpose will never change. Core ideology provides the glue that holds an organization together as it grows, decentralizes, diversifies, expands globally, and develops diversity. The next factor which builds an institution is strategy, the program or plan of action. This is the translation of the core ideologies or values to a concrete action plan, and the allocation of energies and resources within the institution and in relationship to the external environment. These need to be stable, consistent, and contributory to the societal needs. The next is the internal structure. This is defined as the system and processes laid down by the institution for its smooth functioning and for its maintenance. The distribution of roles and responsibilities, the empowerment and accountability of its members, the communication system, and the commitment of its personnel to its ideologies affect the capacity of the institution to deliver its goals. The next and the last factor that helps in the development of an institution are its resources. These are the financial, physical, human, technological, and informational knowledge resources of the institution. It is very important to ensure the steady and reliable availability of these, since they affect every aspect of the institution's activities, and therefore from an endless preoccupation of the institution, they form an endless preoccupation of the institutional leadership. Institutional leadership should always be ready to gather whatever resources it can in all these fields. Now, after being developed, the institution does not exist in isolation. There are interdependencies that exist between the institution and the external environment. It must therefore establish and maintain a network of relationships with its environment to be able to survive and function. It must engage in transactions for gaining support, overcoming resistance, exchanging resources, structuring the environment, and transferring norms and values to be able to change mindsets for its acceptance as a change maker. The institutional leadership in particular should attempt to manipulate and establish such linkages. Now, we have to now see why an educational institution in our society today. Why did we decide on an education institution to change the society and the condition of it? We believe that in any pluralistic society, a community's survival depends not only on its ability to preserve its values, its religion, its identity, but also in its capacity to contribute to the society as a whole. The development of the community is directly proportional to the contribution its members make to that society. And we firmly believe in that. Now we have to realize that this is really true in this minority community of ours. But when we look around, what is in front of us is a fairly dismal picture of the state of the Muslim community in India and its overall standard of living. If you think about what this community has done for itself, forget anybody else, what it has done for itself, you can't blame anybody for its present condition. We have to blame ourselves and look within ourselves to see what we have done, and we as an almost unofficial 20% minority have done to our community as compared to other communities which form only 2% of the Indian population, how much they have contributed in the educational and the medical field, and what have we done? What is our contribution? And if there is any, what is the quality of our contribution? If we look at ourselves, then I think every member of our community should stand up and do something to improve our own condition and not blame, a Zalim Badshah or somebody who's going to come and take away our rights and take away our freedom and going to oppress us. We can, if we get together, we can form a strong, opposition to any kind of force which is trying to get rid of our identity, because we are equally responsible for the freedom of this nation, and we belong, and the nation belongs to us as much as anybody else. So therefore, I would like to present to you here a case study of Oasis International School, which a few ladies got together and realized the condition of the Muslim community and realized that we have to change the community by changing its members right from preschool level, so that in the next 15 years we have a community of individuals who, with a changed mindset, which will come out and actually try to work on the progress of the community. So a group of ladies got together and formed a trust called Mishkat Educational Trust, and we said we have to start from Montessori level. We were assured by many philanthropists in the community that you start and then we are with you, because we went and we told them what we were planning to do, and we told them how the education system prevalent in India, this was about 17 years back, how we did not like what was happening with the education system in India, where it was the same thing that was left back by the British 50 years back, and it was made for clerks and babus, and that's what they want the Indian community to remain. So we have done nothing to change it in the next 50 years. I'm talking about 17 years back. So with this in mind, we were pioneers in trying to change the education system to make it a more thinking and a more reflective kind of a curriculum which would help individuals reflect and think on what they could do out of the box to bring this community out of its deprivation. And also because of this, side by side what was happening was the model structure of the community was also sliding to its lowest because of the effect of satellite TV and internet and all that was coming. So we needed to make an institution which had some ground in values, in moral values. And since we were catering to the Muslim community, we did think about Islamic values with Quran and Sunnah in mind. And with this in mind, we started Mishkat Montessori in the Center for Objective Studies in Dar es Salaam complex. We were given the green room behind the stage, where we made a very nice nursery, and I think some of us here have seen that part of Oasis also. And we started this Montessori school and ran it for about 2 years. And then we had to grow out of it. It belonged to the Waqf board, and there was some new tenant in the building who said that we were being sublet with and the person who subletted to us was taking rent from us, and so the Waqf board asked us to vacate the building. So we had nowhere to go. We needed money. We had, if you're talking about resources, we had no resources, and. So what we did was we gathered together about 15 members of our community, and we said that we will look for a little house which will have about a minimum of 15,000 rent, and we asked them to give 1 month's rent each, so that for 1 year the school would sustain with their rent, and then after that we would try to build enough resources to last by ourselves. So with this plan we actually got contribution, and we can never forget those first 12 members who gave us 1 year's rent. And we were able to move out into a bungalow in Krishnapura, Coxtown, and we started a school. And during this change process, our trust, the name of our trust changed. The members, a few of the members changed. It was called ISRA Trust, and we named the school Oasis International School because we realized after a lot of research that the Indian ICSE or the CBSE did not have what we wanted as a reflective curriculum. So we went in for an international curriculum. We went for the UK national curriculum, which later changed to the IGCSE Board of Exams. And for that, we had international consultants who helped us set it up. And we just started with 4 children and just about 2 teachers. But still, even at that time, with such small resources, we never compromised on quality, and we got a principal who came from a reputed school with 15 years experience. We employed her, and we got the best of teachers and best of consultants. So after that, we established this school, starting in 1 bungalow, which went on to 3 bungalows. And then what I want to describe to you here is this school also has gone through all the 5 stages of institution building, and without even knowing it. Today I did research and I got to know that there are 5 stages to institution building. But when we actually did it, we didn't realize we were actually going through the same 5 stages and towards quality and meaningful education. Our first quality was the leadership. We got together leadership with like-minded people who were all there for the same cause and who had exemplary resilience and selfless dedication to the cause. The next stage in the process of institutional building is the ideology stage. We had, we had a brainstorming session where we did a core ideology workshop with a renowned management consultant, and we actually derived a core ideology and a core purpose statement for the school, which is, which has about 4 or 5 points. That the first point of our core purpose is the Tawheed, faith in God and in His unity and entirety, teaching the right of all people to follow the religion of their choice, creating in children a distinctive identity in harmony with our pluralistic environment. The second point was commitment to excellence, no compromise on the best in everything that we do, commitment to conservation of nature and natural resources of all kinds, excellence in education, teaching skills, behavior, consistency. Amana, that is trust. Treat the child as an amana of the parent entrusted to the school. Ensure that the values of the school are inculcated in the child. Be accountable to the parents for the safety, security, well-being and all-round development of the child. Then ilman nafia, that is beneficial knowledge. To be committed to teaching and learning knowledge that is described as knowledge that helps you understand, praise and submit to the Creator. Knowledge that helps in distinguishing good from bad, right from wrong. Knowledge that helps the person understand their rights and responsibilities. Knowledge that helps the person to form beneficial relationships with the external environment. People, neighbors, fellow students, teachers, society, living beings, plants, animals, and natural environment. Knowledge that helps you communicate in order to be able to lead, that is tools of leadership, follow, tools of team working, collaborate, tools of conflict management, influence, speak, listen, and present your point of view. Therefore, our core purpose statement derived from this was to groom children with high moral values in a multicultural, pluralistic environment, respecting diversity, to develop the next generation of leaders for our country and the world. Now, the next thing was our strategy. What was our strategy? Translating our core purpose or ideology into action, Team Oasis structured the vision and mission statement of the school. This is our vision and mission statement: to set standards in raising God-conscious, knowledgeable, well-balanced and responsible generation of lifelong learners possessing skills and attitudes necessary to positively influence society. The mission of Oasis International School will continuously strive towards excellence in all aspects of education by adopting a holistic and dynamic curriculum and providing an emotionally safe and spiritually and morally invigorating environment to all types of learners, irrespective of their social status or religious leaning. We have thus far accomplished this vision by building a state-of-the-art infrastructure with international specification, an effective, highly motivated team of teachers, a holistic curriculum, and a supportive community. How did we do this? With the help of the supportive community of our parents. We got together parents who actually gave us soft loans, interest-free loans, to be able to buy a land, a 3-acre land, which was 15 kilometers from the center of town. We started making the building, and we have depended totally on our fees and support from our parents. There have been very negligible donations as such, but we have just been taking advance fees and soft loans to be able to come up with our structure. We went up to about 1.3 crores of loans, which we have managed to finish paying back. And every year, we whatever surplus comes out of the fees, we make about 3 or 4 rooms. This year, we managed to make about 6 rooms. We have done a basketball court. And we have, we made 2 libraries, 2 laboratories, 2 computer labs, and we are on par, if not better than many of the international schools here. I'm not talking about the convents. We are better than the convents. We've reached the level of the international schools over here, all with the support of the community and for knowledge resources from our staff. So the next point in the developing of an institution is the internal structure. Our internal structure contains certain core areas and some support areas. We have developed a curriculum based on the IGCSE and also catered to the majority of our students, that is of the Muslim community, and we have integrated a lot of our core ideologies which are very Islamic in nature into the curriculum, in the sense that we do exactly what every other school does, but we do not negate Tawheed. We do not negate anything that goes against our core ideology. We take away everything that goes against our core ideology. Then we have Arabic and Urdu and Hindi as second languages, Kannada and Urdu as third languages. We have a pupil welfare system in place. We have management and leadership structure in place. We have a regular, something called quality circle time, which helps to, for each child to come out with what is within them and share their values, share their feelings, so that we understand each other better, and so therefore we create a more conducive environment for a child to learn better. And we integrate the development of life skills along with the understanding of the essence of Islam. We have given Islamic studies as a subject and Arabic as a language to understand the Quran in its original language. And Alhamdulillah, we have been a pioneer in that, and we have done a lot of research and development and actually making an Arabic curriculum because we have been the first ones to do it here. We have had to go through a lot of research and development and changes to be able to come to a curriculum which we feel today seems to be the best in understanding the Quran. If we come across something better tomorrow, we will adapt to that change. Not sacrificing our core value, which is to understand the Quran. Okay, and then we have monitoring and evaluation mechanisms in place. We have annual performance review of all the staff, teaching and administrative, done by persons they report to. Final compilation of performance reviews and allotment of increments done by the trustees in consultation with the principal. Grievance redressal system, senior management team along with the trustees. Now, the next slide. Resources. If we see what are resources of an institution, and an institution's resources are all the physical, financial, knowledge resources present in its environment, which it acquires to be able to build the institution. But I can tell you that when we set off as novices and we set off as just a group of women